I'm Rachel Goaks. Today I'm going to show you how to make pink peppermint lip balm. This lip balm is wonderful. It smells so good and it's all natural. The ingredients I'm using today are peppermint oil and vanilla oleoresin and alkanet root are the main key ingredients. The other ingredients are cocoa butter and beeswax. The alkanet root is infused in almond oil. You can use other liquid oils such as macadamia nut oil, cocoa nut oil, just various oils, like whichever you decide. Or jojoba, there's all sorts of ones. You could probably even use a liquid coconut oil. I wouldn't use a solid coconut oil because that can be temperamental sometimes. This recipe is inspired by my favorite ice cream this time of year, pink peppermint. And it's so good and so perfect for the holidays, and with just lovely peppermint flavors and a little bit of vanilla. That is why I use vanilla in this recipe. And I don't use too much peppermint because I don't want it to be overstimulating. I just want it to be sweet and delicious and wonderful. So all the materials that you'll need is a double boiler, a pot with water, and I like to use a measuring glass with a little pour, so that way it's easy to pour into my lip balm tubes. And a stir stick with a flat bottom. These make it a lot easier to mix it together. And you'll need a tablespoon. This one is a 4-teaspoon tablespoon because it's a little easier for this recipe for me, because the beeswax uses a tablespoon plus a teaspoon, and I don't know. It's just what I usually grab because it's easier, and I guess, I don't know. And then you can use lip balm tubes. That's what I'm using. Oftentimes, if I don't have enough lip balm tubes, I'll just fill up a couple of them and then I'll keep the rest in a small container like this that I can, as long as it's glass, you can then again put it in the double broiler and melt it down and pour it into whatever containers you want later. So I think that's about it. So let's get to it. All right, you guys. So first things first, I'm going to put this in my double broiler. And I'm just going to turn it on. Sorry about the noise. It's a convection thingy. My husband's idea. So the first thing that I'm going to do is put my beeswax in there and let that melt. While I let that melt, I'm going to tell you how I make my alkanet root infusion. I just put some alkanet root in a double broiler like this, and I turn it on 5, let it heat up a little bit, and then I turn it on low and let it simmer for a few minutes until the color starts getting darker. And if you only can find the powder, wait until the powder settles to the bottom a little bit, and then take it out and let it cool and settle for a while. And that will make it to where it's really easy to pour. I pour mine through a muslin bag, so that way I don't get any sediment in it, but it's a lot easier if you just have the root chunks instead of the powder. And you don't want to just mix the powder straight in there, because otherwise it won't work right and it could possibly mold. All right, let's just let the beeswax melt. I let the beeswax melt first because it's harder than the cocoa butter, and obviously harder than the almond oil. So I do those in order, so that way I'm not messing with the structure of my almond oil. And that way my essential oils, I put those in very last when there's no heat, so that way I don't lose anything from that. So while it melts, I just stir it around like this, and it's already starting to melt just a little bit. Alright, now that is pretty good and melted, I am going to add my alkanet root and almond oil mixture. I'll put a link in how to make this down below. Okay, 3 tablespoons. So that makes it 3 parts alkanet root mixture, 1 part cocoa butter, and 1 part beeswax. And if you want a little bit more solid, add a little bit more beeswax. I like to be a little bit more beeswaxy, so I add an extra tablespoon or like 2 teaspoons-ish, depending on the time of year. Now that it's winter though, I only add like 2 teaspoons extra. Okay, that's about ready. You want all of the little beads of cocoa butter and beeswax to melt. Okay, so now I'm going to add 5 drops of peppermint. You could add probably as much as 10, but I think that 5 is a perfect amount. It's not super pepperminty, but it's really nice. Then I do about 10 drops of vanilla. Okay. But I wouldn't suggest doing any less than 2 drops of peppermint because that won't be very pepperminty at all. It'll just be a little hint if you do 1. And if you do none, then of course, you know. Let's see how many this makes. Whoops. Dang it, I'm doing a terrible job at pouring this today. The heck? Gosh! I don't think I'm gonna have a perfect one in the bunch. Am I gonna get all of them? What? Almost! Oh, close but no cigar. Okay. Now you just let these set and they end up turning out like this. For whatever weird reason, it lightens up a lot and it ends up being a really nice, pretty rosy color. I usually have at least a couple of my lip balm tubes that get a little messy, and so what I do is I just take a paper towel and I clean them off, and it comes off right away as long as you wait until it gets harder. If you do it when they haven't set up all the way, then they'll of course, you know, spill out some more and make a bigger mess. I know from experience. But this lip balm is really nice because it's more of a glossy lip balm, and so it gives a really nice glossy shine. And it's just a little nice pink tinty rosy hue that is just perfect for when you want a nice natural look that isn't overdone while having a lot of really nice gloss. Adding more beeswax will make it to where it's less glossy and a little more solid, but I really like this glossy look. Sometimes, depending on the time of year and how warm your climate is, you might want to just stick with a lip, like a tin for your lip gloss and use a brush. But this time of the year, this works perfect and great, and it doesn't, you know, mush out or anything. It just stays in there really well, and I really like it. And these will settle down and cool fairly quickly on the countertop. That's how I always cool mine. But if you want them to set up a little sooner, then you can put them in the refrigerator or the freezer even. I prefer the refrigerator versus the freezer because the freezer can be kind of weird sometimes, and I don't know. My freezers are just kind of grosser in my opinion than refrigerators sometimes because they're just harder to clean. So, and always make sure that whenever you do make beauty products that all your utensils and everything are really clean, and so are your hands, because you don't want any kind of bacteria and things to get into your beauty products and make them mold or turn rancid more quickly. You want them to be able to stay and last as long as possible, so that way you can use them and enjoy them, and your friends can too. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and for clear directions that are concise and to the point, go to my blog or in the description box below, and hopefully we'll see you next week.